Okay, good evening, members of the committee, public, and a warm welcome also to members from our youth council who have joined us for our first service committee that they've been formed. So, welcome to you all. As I've already alluded to, this meeting is being live streamed in its entirety, so any comments you do make will be available in the public area. I'm going to ask, first of all, if there's any apologies.
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor David Harris, who's asked to Councillor Matt Bell back as a substitute. We have apologies from Councillor Graham Lambert, who's asked to Councillor John Holmes-Slack as a substitute. And we've got apologies from Councillor Jill Taylor, who's asked for Councillor David Gray to act as her substitute.
Thank you very much. Can I have a vote to approve those apologies and substitutions from the proposer? Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Dickinson, and all those in favour.
I should apologise, I've got a bad cough as well, so sorry for interrupting.
Thank you very much. I'm flying blind here at the moment because I can't find my chairman's notes. Next on the agenda is declarations of interest. Is there any declarations of interest notified to the office?
We haven't received any share and no presentations have come with that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just as a point of clarity, I will declare a non-pecuniary interest. That means I don't have a financial benefit from that interest. For those that don't know, in the Fairground items, I have known one of the operators for a number of years, working for charity organisations. Right. Next item on the agenda is minutes of the last meeting. Is there any points of accuracy on those minutes, or do I have a proposer to take them as is? Yeah, that's proposed by Councillor James. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Todd. All those in favour for accepting those minutes? True record. Any against? Or any abstentions? That's bear with me a second, I'm just loading that up. Bring back the paper sometimes. Right, moving on to councillor questions. Oh, sorry, I couldn't find the minutes. Thank you very much. Yeah, moving on to councillor questions. We would be no pre-notified questions into the office. Any urgent questions, Councillor James?
Sorry, I should have done it. I know, I'm sorry, Chair. I just wanted to know if somebody could pass on to Dorset Council, maybe a year ago, the Logmore car park. There is some porta cabins in the back behind the hotel. It would be nice to know actually what they're doing, what they're there. And is there any thoughts on Dorset Council doing some repairs on that waiting space? So they're also not getting any income from it, but I'd like us to have an answer from Town Council, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. I'm sure one of our staff has in the room could ask the question. Would you also like it to come through from Town Council? Get a response.
Yeah, please. I think we should know.
Yeah. The assistant town clerk will ensure that's the question is put forward. Okay, there's no other public questions. Sorry, councillor questions permitted. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, that's public questions. I have been pre-notified a lot of the public wants to speak on items on the agenda. What I propose is last time we'll take those questions at the relevant point on the agenda. So when we get to that agenda item, I'll ask the officer to introduce. I'll then take the public statements and questions, and the members will debate. So is there any public questions this evening that aren't in relation to an item on the agenda, please raise your hand and speak now. No, not so much, Mr. Farr. Okay. We then move forward to item 7 on our agenda, the big ones this evening, which is the updates to the fairground proposals. Then I ask our operations manager, Tony Hurley, to introduce the item, and then we'll go forward to the public statements reported on.
Thank you, Chairman. This matter was deferred from the December meeting of the committee, but is now represented with a range of options for hosting fun fairs for the coming season. The report sets out the discussions that officers have had with a range of stakeholders, from local hoteliers to the police and Dorset Council. With regard to the area of the promenade, adjacent to the Jubilee Clock, the report proposes there are 2 distinct operating areas within the larger rides to the north and children rides to the south. In addition, the very large ride, the only very large ride that will be allowed would be the Starfly ride, with the noisier rides as oxygen not permitted. Also, the large inflatable child slide will be located next to the clock to avoid obstructing the sea views of the hotels on the esplanade south of the King Street junction. With regards to the pavilion forecourt, the only options are to stay at the site for the 2023 season, but with a significant operating and security restrictions, or to locate to the Swannery car park, subject to discussions with Dorset Council on the RSPB. The Pavilion Peninsula car park would be a better alternative location. However, since the report and recommendations were drafted, it has now become clear that this site will not become available until 2024 due to harbour-side construction works. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Tony, and I think before we go into this item, just to thank you for the work that you've done since the last services meeting to move us forward on hopefully something that we can debate tonight. I've had a list of pre-notified statements that I'm going to take first of all. Some of those members are in the room this evening. First of all, I'd like to ask Mr. Edward Dancer to come forward. If you'd like to come forward and just use the microphone there to make your statement. Or would you prefer an officer read it out?
Yes, I prefer the officer to read the statement out, please.
Okay, Tony.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this is a statement from Mr. Edward Dancer. I have run the fun fair at the Pavilion car park and Clock Tower site now for many years. I can't recall having hardly any incidents at all over the many years. Mostly our customers are family people visiting Weymouth. The incident that happened last year in August along the seafront and ended up by the side of the pavilion was nothing to do with the fun fair. These people hadn't even been to the fun fair. I'm sure that lots of incidents happen in Weymouth, being a seaside town. It seems to be unfair to me that the hoteliers want to stop my business with accusations that are not true. I hear music playing along the seafront in Weymouth to early hours in the morning, but it's not the fun fair. Hyde Park, London has just had a massive fun fair and winter wonderland for 2 months, surrounded by hotels and guest houses. I'm always looking to ways to improve my business and willing to work with local people to manage any issues. Myself and my family put 100% into the business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Next, we have I think a couple of statements from members of our youth council. Which one would like to come forward first? Well, you're going to come up together.
You want to read together, right?
Yes, come on forward.
As a youth council, we speak on behalf of the young people in the community, and as a group, we have decided that it would be best to relocate to the peninsula behind the pavilion. Even though this is not available until 2024, this is our decision because the hotel customers won't have as much of a disturbance from the lights, and with any luck, it won't be as loud. Meanwhile, The owners of the rides and our local council will still make a steady income as the young people and families will be visiting when they're in town.
We are aware that not everyone will be happy with our decisions, so we have two others. Our first being for them to remain where we are. We are aware that hoteliers won't be satisfied with this decision, but their customers know where they're staying, and we think they should be informed on the nightlife upon arrival and before. Keeping the rides where they are will ensure that the council and ride tellers will keep their income, and locals as well as tourists will have somewhere to spend their summer evenings. We were thinking that if the rides were staying where they are, they could close earlier to limit disturbance.
And our final option would be for them to move to the Ludmore. Personally, we do think this is the least practical option. However, as many young people and families won't be willing to pay for a bus ticket as well as the price of the rides if they don't own a car. We can see how the hoteliers will favour this option the most, as it will mean that the rides are completely out of sight and will leave some of their customers happier with their stay.
Thank you very much, and well done, guys. It's great to finally have our youth council functioning, and great to have input from some of the young people for us to consider. And it can be quite daunting your first time in the council chamber addressing us. So well done, you did very well. Next, I have a statement notified by Mr. Ashmore.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to come forward?
No, I don't think. So I was attending, but not.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Ashmore. And we do have a statement also provided by Ward Councillor Ken Watley. Again, that will be read out by Tony Hurley.
Thank you. This is a statement from Councillor Ken Watley. The fair has been on that site, the Pavilion Forecourt, for over 30 years and gives pleasure to thousands of visitors and residents alike. But unfortunately, nobody can stop riders screaming whilst enjoying themselves. The fair is not viable without the large rides, as the children's rides are not enough. There are many other events which make a noise, such as Iron Man, displays of noisy World War II machines, not to mention the noise from the boats in the harbour when the wind blows. Should they be stopped? I do not think so. Let's be realistic and vote for the majority who enjoy the fair and not just a few people who want it changed. This also applies to the clock tower site, and the big rides such as Oxygen must be allowed there. As you know, I live near the clock, and the fair is always a pleasure to see and hear. I do not find it an inconvenience. If we're not careful, we'll lose the fairs and lose lots of income. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. That's all of our pre-notified speakers. Is there anyone here this evening that wishes to speak any further or make any additional points? Yeah.
Just wanted to add, you know.
Can I just ask you to come forward? Is that okay?
Good evening. I won't give my name because obviously there's, we're live streamed and I wasn't aware of that before. However, we are part here as a cohort of hoteliers. Yeah. Okay. So what it is, we're not asking the fun fair to lose money. We don't want them to lose money. What we're asking is it's just put into a place that we also are protected. And I appreciate it's been there for 30 years, but things change, people change, times change. We've spoken before, we're really glad that the youth council are here because, you know, we'd like to do some work with them, possibly, you know, have other things on board that can help with the youngsters moving forward. We're not wanting anyone to lose revenue. The problem is that when the fun fair is finished, we've got the thorough through people urinating in our doorsteps, throwing up, using substances in alley gardens. And, you know, I've worked with vulnerable adults for 15 years. There's lots of things that we can do. And they talk about gateways, you know, for youth getting into trouble, you know, being cannabis. What about all the laughing gas, the units that are everywhere that are dangerous? And, you know, I think that it's not just one thing, and we don't want by any means anybody to lose money, including ourselves. We're quite happy to support the fair. We just would like to be heard you know, it to be done in a good manner where we can all be involved and it's located to a place that doesn't affect everybody. Not all of us have been here for 30 years and change has come, you know, and it's good change because we're investing money into Weymouth. We'd like to see Weymouth work, you know, and we want to support everybody, but it has to be equal, you know, and I'd love to talk to those guys after, but yes, that's all I want to say. Anything added? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, just, was there anybody else? Yeah.
I'll see if the line works. Should be able to use the mic after this amount of time. I'm Phil Say from the Weymouth Pavilion, one of the directors there. We've been there now, it'll be 10 years this summer, and all the way through. I know, it seems like a long time ago, but 10 years has passed. All the time we've been there, Fairgrounds have been on the forecourt. We get on very well, which is why I'm sitting next to Mr. Danton this evening. We get on very things have changed, times have changed. People coming to the fair or the fair attracts seem to have a completely different mindset now. Drugs, sex, alcohol, security to maintain the safety of the pavilion. We provided sanctuary for people who were scared. I mean, it's getting not quite war-torn, but dangerous, definitely. Scary for staff to leave on their own, not nice. Now, I really admire the dancers and all the other operators. Very good, professional, polite people, work really hard. Sadly, though, something has to be done. We had police vans circling, especially on an idea about how detrimental having a block in front of the pavilion is. On the 3 firework nights in August, we lost money. It actually cost us money to open the doors. And when the fairground leaves and the block disappears from in front of the pavilion, our ticket sales go up by 45%, as I showed people at a previous meeting. So it has a massive impact on us. I would love for it to not have a massive impact, but I'm afraid it's getting worse year on year. Therefore, as difficult as it would be for the dancers and everyone else, trying to find an alternative location is imperative. This year, our business will have to face about a £75,000–80,000 uplift in energy costs, plus staff costs and everything else. And with blocks coming in for a lot of the year, 71 days of the year, that's going to hurt the business a lot. And I want to be here in 10 years' time. Well, not here, but in the pavilion in 10 years' time. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any, yeah?
I just wanted to say something in response to Councillor Watley's statement. The comparison of the fun fair to the Ironman is frankly ridiculous, because we're talking about what the Ironman is a one-day event. And we as a business, we actually close on that weekend because of the disruption. However, closure is not an option on every single bank holiday, the entire summer season, bonfire night, and of the 71 days that the council are proposing, the fair is going to be on the pavilion forecourt. You also said about the boats on the harbour. The boats on the harbour do not attract antisocial behaviour, and people do actually visit Weymouth to look at a working harbour. In all honesty, people don't visit Weymouth to go to a fun fair. They go to the fun fair while they're here, but that's not why they come to Weymouth. So I think Ken Watley's comparison is actually completely out of touch. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Oh, stop, sorry, Mr. Anderson. I'm just gonna, I'll go with Claire first.
I'm Claire and I am the association chair leader, and I just want to reiterate everything that's been said, and also make comments on the way it was reported, which has been totally took out of context. There's no facts to some of the parts they've put in their reports, and that's what's instigated all this back there. We're now working to move over, should be, to resolve the issues in the best way. It's never been our intention to get rid of the fair or even move them out of Weymouth. It was ways to work together to solve issues that was raised.
Thanks, Claire. And just to point to clarity there, I think you're referring to when you say reporting the press, not
Yeah.
the council's reports that have been
We
produced.
weren't aware of the one report going in.
No, so that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that for members. Okay, Mr. Townsend, we normally wouldn't allow you to speak because you've got a statement in, but because I know you have travelled a long distance, if you wanted to speak in addition, I would say that this evening.
I'm Edward Dancer of the Danvers Fun Fair, and I've been operating in Weymouth for well over 30 years. The incidents on the firework night that was on last year was a one-off incident, what I've seen. This year, will be putting in arrangements to have security there on the firework nights to patrol the area, to employ the local chap Dan Wilson with his security team. And the majority of the time, when we come in June, May, we're closed with the fun fair about 9 o'clock, 9:30. The only time is a busy time for us is in August, July, August. And that is the only really time busy on the firework nights. And if we was in a different area when the development is done in 2024, you're talking at the rear of the pavilion, I think that area might be an area that might work, but until it's all developed, it wouldn't work. The football, we've got to be in an area with the football. And we do our utmost, and I would work with the hoteliers, guest houses. We have my phone number, and I'm on to it all the time to see to any issues that might occur. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Townsend. I'm feeling that that's the public's input. Unless anyone else wants to speak on this item. So I'm going to open it up now to members' debate. First name on the list this evening is Councillor James.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you for the news as well. I have to say it's sad that Mr. Danter about the untrue accusations, and I understand that some of the comments from the local Echo were really quite rude, and just there's no need, because I did make a comment to say that rather than sit there making comments, come to this meeting tonight if they have such a view on it and put their points across, but obviously none of them have. I've got a few notes written down here. I have to say that I would like to see it on the Peninsula site, and the fact that now we're told that DC has said that's not available till next year, will it be available, or are they going to find another excuse, or will they find an excuse not to have it on that site? That would be my worry, and I'm not sure the excuse that they're doing some works there is a good enough excuse not to find some space on the Peninsula site to actually relocate the fair. They've got enough space there, and they, you know, they do make a vast income from those amount of parking spaces. So I just see that as a bit of a red herring by them. I think they could easily accommodate it. So I think that would be the best site. I get what some of the youth council said about relocating to Logmore, but what they need to remember, well, that's quite a big car park too, and I think a lot of families would already have parked there or have gone there, and some locals would have cycled or walked there as well. So I'm not sure that not necessarily being able to access it as easily is a good enough excuse. I'm not sure. I do have to agree that there are certain comments that have been made that are a bit out of touch about the fair being there for 30 years, not been the problem. I wanted to know what the noisy World War II machines were. I'm assuming that was something to do with Veterans Weekend, which is a whole hour or so of some heavy duty vehicles rolling along the seafront, which give a great pleasure. So I can't see that is similar to a fun fair. The fact that the hoteliers here have admitted they're investing money into these businesses, they're making the town look better, people are coming here to spend their money and they're staying in the hotels. I don't see why people should expect to come somewhere. They may know there's a bunker on, but they shouldn't expect to have their evenings disturbed or have noise or all the other issues that have gone on. times have changed, we all hear that. And I'm shocked that, you know, they've had to employ private security, and Mr. Dante saying that, you know, next year he will employ private security as well. And it's just an indictment of today's society that they have to do that. What I'd like to ask tonight is, where are the police in all of this? We heard that perhaps the police are circling around in their vans, but why isn't a police officer or somebody here from law enforcement here to answer some of these questions? And at the end of the day, it's costing the council, hoteliers, the fairground. They're the ones that are going to be spending money on stopping any antisocial behaviour, and it's not their job, it is the police's job. And I still feel very strongly that they have a bigger role to play in this than they're not even here to put their 2 penny worth in. So it'd be interesting to hear what the rest of the councillors say. I would like to see it relocated to the rear of the peninsula. If not, I think we're going to have to agree that it probably goes to Lodmore. But again, it depends how that's going to affect the Dante family, whether that's going to affect their income. But we've also got to listen to how it's affecting the hoteliers. So this is going to be a really interesting debate, and the decision is going to be really difficult. But I would really like to find out if DC really would be committed to allowing us, or allowing the fairground owners to use the peninsula site, because to say that they can't use it this year, and they could use it next year, or we may be able to, is there going to be an excuse next year that won't allow us to use it? So at the moment, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Before we go to the next speaker, I'm just going to ask Tony to respond to a few points there, in particular, pavilion, the rear of the pavilion peninsula sign, the police response, and the use of Logmore, because I know you do have information on all those points.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, regarding the Peninsula car park, it's because of their construction works going on the harbour wall and the pleasure pier. Dorset Council have got construction compounds there, and they've given no indication that they've got a fundamental objection, and they're just saying that for this year, it's not going to be possible. But there's been no kind of indication from Dorset Council that they wouldn't accommodate it. We've spoken to both the harbour master, or harbour office, and Dorset Council parking, and they were both amenable to the idea. Regarding Lodmore, we did talk to the Sea Life Centre, and they said that the noise from the fairground would be something they would object to strongly because of its impact on the wildlife. I understand that they said it in the strongest terms that it would have an impact, particularly on the seals and the penguins. And that's their view. If we did go with that, that's what they would certainly write to us with a claim. Regarding the police, yes, I've spoken to Sergeant Sam Goon and also Inspector David Parr. They don't really particularly have strong views on this matter. It's not necessarily something that's been reported to them as being a major issue of concern. They said if there was going to be an alternative site, then the peninsula would be their preferred site.
Can I respond to this, Chair? Briefly.
I could bring in the other speakers first, Councillor James.
Okay.
Okay. The points obviously you raised, and I'm not going to iron out the committee to understand what's the options. Councillor Roos.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I've made quite a few notes, so excuse me while I look through them. Firstly, we do have the option, do we not, of the Swanray car park as an alternative to the peninsula for the relocation. That is mentioned in the report as an option in the recommendations. So I think if we focus on, if we're looking at relocation, could we say it's the Swanray until it's the peninsula? When that becomes available would be maybe a good compromise. What I wanted to discuss is actually compromise, and that a lot of the discussion around this tends to be quite black and white. And the whole point of council is to make the compromises and look at the different ways we can make everyone as happy as possible. The things that are raised are things like security, scale of the rides, time and location. Those are the 4 things that I feel like officers have been set to tasked with trying to look at and think of ways around it. I would say that I do like in the appendix A that there's a lot about not having the bigger rides as we did last year, in front of the Jubilee, around the Jubilee clock. And I think that again is a compromise. You could still have rides there, but not big, loud, noisy ones. It might be that we ask that the amount of time that the rides is on is reduced. It could be that we reduce the dates, we go back to a reduced amount as in comparison to last year. I've had one resident contact me regarding this. And they were prompted by the Echo report, which I think again can be very black and white. And their response was that they didn't want to see the fairground rides go. So I discussed it with them and we had a long conversation about some of the impact that they weren't aware of, such as security, such as cost to other businesses, such as the antisocial behaviour. They were under the assumption that the police were having to deal with any antisocial behaviour. They weren't aware that security would need to be, had been employed or would need to be employed. And they are somebody who used the fairground ride. So it's quite interesting taking on all the perspectives, but also listening to the hoteliers. They have a really important role in our seaside town. They're a part of what everybody uses when they come to visit. So if they're negatively impacted, we have to seriously take that on board, as well as the pavilion. They're a part of our entertainment as well. So I do think we need to consider everything that's been said, discuss it, and hopefully come up with something that is a compromise. I would say my preference on the recommendations is that we go on the first recommendation of the Jubilee clock is that we go with a reduction back to what we had, the scale in Appendix A, where it recommends the not having the oxygen ride and maybe scaling back on that. And I would say on the second to go with B, to be relocated to either the Swannery and then when available, the Peninsula. Though that's where my vibe is going. I do think we have to be considerate of noise pollution as we move forward, and that we have to be considerate of how residents and people who are living in the Park District feel about fairground rides and what happens with them.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roos. I know you mentioned Swannery there as an option. Again, Tony does have some information that may be useful to the committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the only caveat really with the Swannery is it is subject to a meeting with Dorset Council, who don't necessarily have an objection in parking terms, but also with the RSPB, given its proximity to the nature reserve. And obviously, in our view, we would look to have it as close to the road front near the public toilets as possible. So hopefully that is.
Can I quickly go?
Because I didn't let Councillor James.
Okay, I was just gonna.
I'm going to be fair to mine. You've got lots to get through and lots of speakers. Next, Councillor Royal.
Thank you, Chair. I'm interested to hear the discussions from the public submissions and the youth. Thank you for coming. I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Bruce. I've actually made some good points there, and I'm inclined for her reasoning. If we do need to find some kind of compromise here, I think, because we took the extreme view that fun fairs just bring drug abuse and destitution. We end up with no fun fairs and are very hostile to young people, to old people, and that's not what we aim to be. We should have everybody. So we need to find, I think we need to find a compromise and find a better site. I'm quite impressed with the fun fair. I have visited Danvers in the summer. They showed their new rides, the lights that they've got on there, which use about 10% of the energy they used to. And I don't think the volume was actually that loud. We could still converse with each other in the middle of the fun fair. So that they're certainly no louder than the road. So going back to the Swannery car park, that seems a reasonable compromise for the coming season. I think we need to push much harder on Dorset Council for the peninsula. It seems ridiculous that I don't understand every time and marble walls. But that's 1,000 car park. I can't believe the entire car park is used for construction in summer. So I think we need to go back to we may have to compromise on the Swansea this year, but we need to push for the peninsula because that's much better venue. From the point of view of an attraction, it'd be visible from the sea all day long. So people say, "Mummy, can I go on the fun fair?" Because they can see it. And we do think it's good to find somewhere for teenagers to go in the summer. So we really push for the peninsula. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Round. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Gray.
Just to. It's on the exploration on the calendar. It's also council because I know what revenue they get in Swansea in the summer, so I'm questioning whether, from a viability point of view, if we were to relocate to the Swansea, if any indication of what they would charge us, is it different than the car park at the pavilion because they're too from a financial point of view. I've got another question, but you can answer that.
We haven't discussed a particular area, but my understanding is that the fee they charge us is linked to the cost of parking. And it would only go up if parking went up, and I assume it's related to the cost of parking at that car park, which is long stay.
Yeah, okay. Second question, probably for Charmaine. Mr. Danta talked about private. It seems to me that there's two issues with fairgrounds. One is the effect on hoteliers and businesses, and as the lady life is changing. I'm not sure to what degree, but it is. So that's one effect. And the second effect is it attracts behaviour and people perhaps that we don't want. And we can't separate that. So Mr. Danta talked about private security and Councillor James talked about the police. We haven't yet mentioned CSAS, but I'm wondering from a contractual point of view, could we put in any contract the need to provide private security? Can you do that?
Yeah, we so within the terms and conditions of the license that we issue to any of our operators, it's down to us to negotiate that. So we can put in that in there, and it can be required that they close at certain times. Security is employed between certain times throughout the duration of their stay. So it is down to us what we include in there.
Thank you. That's it, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, until we had our meeting in December, I was sort of blissfully unaware of most of the concerns of hoteliers and specific incidents involving antisocial behaviour at the fun fair. As we've already heard, not necessarily the security arrangements within the vicinity of rides, because as we've already established, Mr. Daffy runs a very good professional business. It's the behaviour 200 yards down the road. And it's when people are leaving the site. I mean, I used to drive a bus in town. Very foolishly used to volunteer for 5th of November overtime, not realising that people were coming to town all afternoon and early evening, and then as soon as the last plume of fireworks went up, they all turned around, headed straight for the bus stop, and couldn't understand why 650 of them couldn't get onto the 83-seater bus, and that some of them would have to wait. So I think we have a very similar situation with the fun fair. You know, they congregate and they group, and then later it goes on and all the rest of it. And then when the last ride finishes, the lights go out, and then everybody disperses. So you get a very similar sort of situation. But as I've said, it's not necessarily the security or behaviour within the vicinity. It's what happens 200 yards down the road as people are actually leaving. And you can ask the police to turn up. They will only respond to anything that's happening. You can put security on, but you can't write into a contract. It would be unfair to write into a contract for Mr. Dante to say that you're responsible for security within the vicinity of your ride and up to 500 yards in all directions there or down the road. It's just be impossible to do. I'm inclined to sort of go with Councillor Roos's comments. I think we ought to go back to Dorset Council, and I agree with John. I can't imagine that there is that much work going on that they need all that room all the time. So I think we need to be a little bit more forceful and a little bit more assertive, don't we? And go back to Dorset Council and find exactly how much space we've got to play with. And if that's not possible, for this 1 year, move it over to the Swannery. And then in 2024, hold Dorset Council to their word and come back to the pavilion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Young.
Just like to say, yeah, I was about to bring up the Swannery and Councillor Roos brought that up, and I'm entirely agree with that ideally for next year, yes, we need to push Dorset Council on using the pavilion. But this year, the Swannery seems to be an excellent site. It is practical there. It's bounded by the road on one side, water on another, a very dark nature reserve on the third side. Yeah, I think it's really going to particularly bother the hotel it's there in the same way that the other sites in front of the pavilion does. And I was particularly concerned to hear from the gentleman from the pavilion there about the effect it has on the pavilion. And I think the pavilion is a very important part of the town in the same way the fun fair is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Anybody else? Councillor Bell, welcome.
Just a very brief comment. We talked a lot about the antisocial behaviour and constantly linking it to the youth of the town seems to be the general gist. It isn't just the young people in the town, it is a wide age range. I've been down there myself a few times and seen, young people behaving immaculately, older people letting themselves down. It's a real mix. But one thing I'm very aware of, we've got to keep activities for young people in the town. Because frankly, it's one of the privileges of living in the town. We expect those sorts of activities. But also, if you reduce the availability of activities for young people, I think you'll actually see a spike in antisocial behaviour through a lack of activities to engage with. So it's really important we keep it. I think the Swannery site in short term makes sense. It would be interesting to see what the RSPB have to say, obviously, but we talked about locating it at the far end of the car park. It's a difficult one, so I want everyone to be happy, but I just wanted to make the point, by having the fun fair, we may well be reducing antisocial behaviour by keeping youth active, engaged, happy. If we start removing all those things, I think we're just building up problems elsewhere as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell. Councillor James, you wanted to come back, and then Councillor Roos again.
Yeah, I've actually, the first point I wrote down that I wanted to come back on was we need to actually get something stronger from Dorset Council in writing preferably about their willingness to let us use the Peninsula site next year. And going on what Councillor Rell said about what work they're doing there, I understood they shut the pleasure pier section of it because of antisocial behaviour. So rather than the police dealing with it, it was shut because nobody could be bothered to deal with it. So I don't believe that part of it is anything to do with this. And I'm sure, I agree with Councillor Brooks that there's room there for that to go on the Peninsula. So we definitely need something stronger from Dorset Council in writing, preferably, to let us use it. The issue with Logmore and penguins and seals that would disturb them, I don't like to see wildlife disturbed or hurt. But at the end of the day, we're looking at income generating tourists that come to this town, which I would thought are more important than the wildlife. And I know that might make some people suck their teeth in, but that's just how it should be. And the response from the police that Officer Tony Hurley gave us, I have to say, I just think it's quite lame. The fact that they have, what did you repeat what you said in that statement, Tony, about what the police have said, that it's not.
The Dorset police haven't got particularly strong views on the issue of antisocial behaviour in the area of the forecourt based on the reports. But their indication was that they felt that the peninsula would be a better alternative.
Yeah, and that's good that they've said that, but the fact that they're saying that the antisocial behaviour is not sort of something they're sort of that worried about because of reports, well, is that because people give up trying to report it? Is it because the reports don't get through? That you know, they're very good at pulling the wool. I used to support the police a lot, but I'm having to say I'm finding the police and their behaviour recently was really lame at response. But we need to be heard to be saying these things. And as for what new councillor Matt Bell said about taking away the fund, I don't think anyone wants to take it away, but I think over the years, having worked with youths and working in a ward that we know is deprived ones, you'll find that a lot of the kids you give stuff to do, the ones that want it, they're the ones that will go to things. The ones that want to cause trouble, doesn't matter what you give them, they will just go and cause trouble. So there's got to be a balance there as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Williams.
I just wondered if, as Councillor Gray had mentioned, with the PSPOs, would that be an extra cost to us? Because I'm kind of trying to weigh up a little bit of what we're going to make of having the fairground rides and what we might end up paying out for in our own security for Weymouth Town Council. I was going to say this, with the Swannery earlier on, it already is used to having markets there and activities happening. So I wonder if that is quite a viable way to go forward. And I was going to say with that, can we just jump to voting on recommendation 2 and part B?
Thank you very much, Councillor. So I ask our assistant town clerk just to come in on the use of staff to support security needs.
I am gonna try and answer this best I can, if not, I'm not managing to do assist. As far as I'm aware, we are planning to serve the agreement with these officers, and we can request that they go to certain areas, but doesn't mean they will, because they have a vast area to cover, and we're only putting a few pennies in the pot compared to our partners, so they have to support all partner needs. So we can request it, but it's an instant.
Councillor Gray.
It's not very often I will disagree with my assistant town clerk, but we spend a considerable amount of money on CSAS. I know we've got a service level agreement. We can, as a town council, advise the dates that we want additional. The pavilion car park and the promenade is part of their red zone walk. I'm not sure they work those evenings. If they don't, then as a town council that contributes thousands to that budget, we should, at least on the days that the fireworks are going off, we should be saying to them, we won't be in the evening. Don't believe it, they cost extra.
Thank you very much. Okay, just my views, if I can, again, as a member of the committee, not during the summer, that considerations to both alternative sites will cost significantly more in land rental, which will reduce the amount that Weymouth Town Council makes. And I think in some instances, it could leave us, unless we increase prices, absolutely subsidising a fairground. Because how the charging system works, and I have experience in this from events, is you pay per bay that you occupy, not the amount of space. So the pavilion forecourt, and Phil will know very well, I think it's got 23 parking bays.
I think it's 31.
31, there you go. I knew you'd know. So 31 parking bays at maximum payment for a day's rental, and that's how the sum is calculated. For that same amount of space in all the alternative venues, because if you think the forecourt has all that additional space between the bays, would be significantly more and therefore cost more. So if members are inclined to move forward with a relocation, it's my opinion the decision should be deferred until we have the finances on that, because that could be significant difference in that relocation, our costings and what we actually make. I think we'll actually end up losing them. Second of all, over the last couple of weeks and between Christmas and now, I've taken the opportunity, I've had a telephone conversation with Mr. Say. I've met with the Hotel Association just last evening with their chair and vice chair, and spoke around some of the real issues that we're seeing as a result. And I think it's fair to say that antisocial behaviour in the pavilion area and Alexander Gardens has massively increased in the last 2 to 3 years, whether there's a fairground there or not. When you put an event on, yes, it will always draw more people, and there may be a slight raise. And I think the significant points on where we're saying the additional security needed are actually as a result of our events being the fireworks, bringing the additional people, rather than the fire at the fairground, because those same levels of attendance won't be there on the Tuesday night when the fireworks aren't there. I think the other point on just to clarify on a point that Councillor James made around the sea life, it's not actually wildlife because the animals are in captivity, and the activities with the vibrations and the noise could actually cause death to the animals, not just distress but death. So we do need to consider that. And again, the Sea Life Centre does bring in a large amount of revenue and tourism attractions to the town, as well as the hoteliers. So every venue does have its pros and cons. And I think that the way that this should be managed is via the licensing agreements. So look at the times that we allow the fairground operators to actually play the music. There's no reason that on an standard evening that we allow them to play music to 10 o'clock at night. We can say that we expect music to be ceased prior to that. We can say that we want to prohibit the use of tannoy systems, so they can only be used for emergency purposes rather than to attract people onto the rides. We can set decibel readings up and record the actual noise that's being produced if we believe the noise is an issue. And these are all things that we can do within our licensing agreements. Now, we have also taken time to look and ask our officers on what official complaints us as a town council have received on the fairground provider. And on record is only one complaint in 2001. And it was to do with one of the operators setting up late into the evening, banging and clashing around. There has been no reports or complaints to this council in relation to unsocial activity with the fairground. So members do need to consider this, because I think a lot of what we're being told by certain people is, you know, frustrations on activities that are happening throughout the year. You know, there are people in Alexander Gardens every Friday, Saturday night, intoxicated doing drugs. That will happen with the fairgrounds there or not. There are kids congregating and causing antisocial behaviour out the back of the pavilion on the peninsula every single evening, which is why Dorset Council have targeted youth workers in the area to safeguard. So there's more that we can do within our existing licensing to manage the situation and trial things rather than look at a relocation. And I think that can be tidied up out of the committee process. And I think the other thing we can ensure that we do is through the Hoteliers Association, and Claire has told me that she'd be willing to work with us on this, is to make sure that we give the details to the hoteliers that if there are issues, how they can complain. So that if a fairground provider sets up on the Monday and there's issues with loud noises or bright light going into bedroom windows, they have that mechanism to report that in day one, so it can be resolved in day two, So that nuisance hasn't got to be dealt with for 2 weeks. And we've already heard that Mr. Danton will also support those sorts of communications. I think that's my view and input into the debate. I'm just going to check that nobody else wants to speak that hasn't yet spoken, and I'm going to move forward with recommendations. What I'm proposing within the recommendation is to take 1 and 2 separately, so the fairground site and the proposal for the forecourt or relocation in item 2 separate. And I will be proposing an item 4, which is around the licensing agreements and tying up, and that will be done as a bit of conjunction work with officers and stakeholders. So just to check, nobody else wishes to speak on the items? Moving forward then, recommendation 1, which is the clock. So members are taken to appendix A that sets out the dates for the clocks, operating conditions and proposed times. Would anybody make a recommendation for the item 1, recommendation 1, the clock situation?
So you were going to put times on them or not, or did you want to defer it for another committee, right?
Time, at the moment, the recommendation that I'm looking to move currently is just the Jubilee clock, because from the debate here, it seems a more straightforward one. And I'll put my head there then. I would propose the recommendations for the Jubilee clock as written in the appendix. Do I have a second there? Councillor David Grant. All those in favour of recommendation 1, Jubilee clock arrangements, those in favour raise a hand, please. Seven, 4, any against? Silence. 6, again, any abstentions? That's great, and so that is carried. So the proposals for the Jubilee clock as set out in appendix A has been carried. We now move forward to item 2, which is the current proposal, the fairground. Members, do I have any recommendations for the proposal there? Councillor Roos.
I'd like to recommend B.
B, that we relocate the 71 days to the Swannery. Councillor Graham.
I'm not sure I can vote for either, because I'm nervous about the costs. I mean, I feel that I want to vote for the Swannery, but I need some surety about they're not going to come over the top with whether it's possible. I think we need to get some clarity from Dorset Council first. I'm sort of saying defer the decision until Tony can get a bloody answer out of Dorset Council, because I think, well, as a member of Dorset Council, I'm frustrated. As a Councillor Gray, I think to be fair on Dorset Council's behalf, that we've not actually asked them what the cost was. We've not asked them if they wanted so many square foot car park this many days. That's my nervousness. So we haven't asked yet. So
we don't have those figures. We got our recommendation. That's not Dorset Council's. That's the Town Council. It's not asked those questions. Sorry. Sorry.
Councillor Roos.
Councillor Wakeling, you want to comment?
My comment is, and Mr. Dancer said it quite well, and I walk my dog every evening. I don't walk my dog in the peak of the sun, I walk around the evenings at work. Certainly in the shoulders of the season, the fun fair does close much earlier in the evening. And I don't know whether he'd get the football at the Swannery in, say, Easter. So if you're going to defer this, could you maybe look at a hybrid where at the shoulders of the season, we have the forecourt, but then for August, when it's a later night event, look at the Swannery for the peak season. So I don't know, just putting that idea in there to have a combination of sites. I don't know how it would work in practice, but to me, I just feel the Swannery is just too far out of town in the cold.
Yes.
Too far out. So
So just a point of order, we do currently have a proposal on the table, proposed by councillor James, seconded by councillor Roos, proposed, seconded by councillor James, to relocate to the Swannery. That's currently what we're debating. Do I have, councillor Gray then came in to say he's nervous around costs. You said you deferred. Am I taking that proposal currently off the table?
Councillor Rose is one that proposed it, so.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'll remove my proposal. I'd like to make an amendment and defer with that amendment.
Before you make your amendment, I just have people wishing to speak on item B. Councillor Dickinson, your hand was raised. Did you wish to speak?
I just wanted to clarify that we had a proposal on the table. We had a seconder. Can councillor Roos now put an amendment to her own proposal?
She's withdrawn that. There's no.
You've withdrawn the proposal. Rose has withdrawn.
But now I want to make an amendment.
I'd like to be.
So can I have the amendment just? Clarity.
I'd like to make the amendment AC, option C.
Out of season, different July, August, and September dates are removed from July, August, and September dates for the Swannery.
Yeah.
Okay. Proposed by councillor Roos, seconded by councillor James. Councillor Gray.
I think I heard from behind. I'm interested in. I know this is probably not. I mean, you're going to say no, we can't do this, but I think Mr. Dance said it wouldn't work. Or somebody behind me said it wouldn't work out of season. Now, if we're voting on something that's not going to work, then we're sort of the death knell of that commercial activity. So, are we sure that it could work on the shoulder season at the Swannery? Because
You're proposing the opposite.
So the show, what the proposal is saying is that basically the Easter holidays, the May bank holidays,
stay at the pavilion.
Coronation with bank holiday,
Yeah.
and the May half term, the October half term, and the bonfire night stay at the pavilion.
Right.
Summer holidays down somewhere else.
Totally agree.
It's probably not the right thing to do, but the discussion was, at a best site moving forward from antisocial behaviour and everything else is from 2024 and left floor to council agree sooner, is at the back of the pavilion rather than in front of the pavilion.
There's costing.
Yeah.
We want to read that.
Using the word pavilion forecourt because then it'll stick there forever and a day. We'll be back again next year doing the same thing.
That makes me.
Yeah. Can we make them amendments, extra options that would then go with the deferring so that we get more information back from Dorset Council and then have more options on the table?
We can defer the whole recommendation here.
Yeah.
Members, that is in the power, and in your power. However, I am mindful of the fact this has been deferred once. We're talking another 6 weeks in that process without having any bookings for these sites. And we are sort of, and again, there's another 6 weeks with the hoteliers not understand.
If we are to use it as an option, but we want a quick answer, I'm sure that's not going to take them that long to work it out. We get paid enough.
The six weeks we've got to do that, that shouldn't be a problem, find that cost, and we will need to speak to potential operators, and it's a reminder that it is all potential operators to the footprint they may require. Okay. So you're proposing we just further cost the options from the Swannery? Councillor James?
Well, I'd like to see that. Is that what councillor is want you to defer, or is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I want to defer with the adaptation, with the amendment that's been added above, so that the Dorset Council have in front of them 3 different options, or the 2 different options that we rely on them giving us a response for.
Yeah.
And obviously the cost of part of the fun fair being on Fairground, being on the pavilion forecourt, and then into the Swannery is going to be different from it being permanently on the Swannery or at the back of the pavilion. So there's a cost difference there between those 2 options, hence why I've added that as an amendment as another option.
Okay, Councillor Roos. So that's now a proposal that is on the table, seconded, first proposed. On that amendment or proposal.
Can I just ask a question here? There's no sense in B or C there that we're really hoping that we will move to the peninsula, but we can't do it this year. So if we move to the Swannery, that is a stopgap temporary proposal. There's no sense in that.
So we also need to know the costing, what the costing cost is on the peninsula. Can I just make an observation and in the Vice Chair, we're basically looking at dates here, and if we were to defer this item to come back to the next services, and services then approve, the time between then and the first potential booking is around 5 weeks. So we're talking then uncertainty for a potential provider and our residents on whether or not, on what will happen on the Easter holidays. So I would like, potentially within this recommendation, to say that we go ahead and allow the Easter holiday 10-day booking to take place on the forecourt with a reviewed licensing conditions. We're already aware that the fun fair doesn't operate as late into the evenings during this time because people aren't around later that time. We can use this to gather some intelligence around some of the things that we want to do as a town council to try and improve the situation. Make sure that hoteliers are aware how they can report issues, and try and make this a success on those dates for everyone. So I would like within this recommendation really to say that we pursue the 7th to the 16th of April booking on the forecourt as recommended, because we need, we need to get some certainty. We need to be advertising what our town is offering during that period to draw people in to support our economy.
Chair, can I ask that the recommendation amendments go in red so that I can see what we're changing, because I'm struggling, it keeps.
Anyone else whilst the officers are doing that wish to speak on this proposal? Councillor Todd.
Can I just have an extra ordinary meeting just on this subject in 3 weeks' time? Do we have to wait 6 weeks for one item?
We don't. It is our in the committee's proposal.
Would that be a compromise between getting the decision in the right place, sort of? Sorry.
Right, look at my vice chair, I think 4.5 term on the way.
What date? We've got a Western meeting.
Okay. So, would members prefer? What would members prefer? I'm looking to try and sum this up now. We've been debating this one for nearly an hour. Do I have a steer from the committee?
I think we need to make a decision as soon as possible. So as soon as we get an answer from Dorset Council, call an extra meeting, and whoever turns up, turns up. And then just get on with it.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with what you were saying about Easter though. I do think
The Easter thing's fine.
nail that down today.
So we can now Easter and then have an extraordinary meeting.
Yeah.
We do have a proposal on the table. Councillor Brooks.
I was just going to actually come in and agree with Councillor Tom. we can sort of defer the whole lot until we find out the cost for, against, and you know, how much it would it cost us to move to the Swannery? What's the cost of behind the pavilion? What is the exact space that Dorset Council needs for them to do their works? And just be a little bit more forceful and sort of try and pin them down a little bit more. When all that information is in, then as Alan suggested, just call a special meeting. We can do it over Zoom if it's a lot easier. Doesn't really need to be-
We can, there is not easily binding.
Call a special meeting for the one I know. You know.
Okay. Councillor Bruce, you have a proposal on the table. Would you kindly move it so that we can move forward with the recommendation? Okay. So, members, I'm going to listen to the proposal. I'm not happy with the proposals. I would like to make a decision this evening. But the proposal is the third full option. Instruct officers to go and get proposals for both the Peninsula for future years and the Swannery car park for this year. And to proceed with bookings for the 17th of April, 16th of April on the forecourt as recommended within the appendix. So I have a second there.
I just add one thing to that, Chair. And we also pushed them to see if we can get it for 2023. I know they said no. Can we push them for 2023?
So we'll come again and re-ask the question for provision in 2023. So we have that there. Seconded by, sorry, just to be solid there, and this committee will have an extraordinary meeting to discuss this item only as soon as the information is available. Proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Thurman. All those in favour?
We wait till it's finished, right? Duty fair, the full option and continue with the dates in April on the pavilion board.
So, yes. Are we happy with what's written?
Yes.
Too many L's in the pavilion.
It's not a spelling test, in that.
We just need to time this down with the specific date. Another date later in April. Okay, I think we're happy. Proposed, seconded, all those in favour, show of hands. It's unanimous. Fairgrounds will be the death of me, and it won't be on there either, will it? Thank you very much, everyone who attended. I'm presuming. We do have item C, recommendation three, sorry, which is. Getting all excited then, I thought it was over. That the officers provide regular updates to the committee with the progress of the funfair arrangements and any feedback from stakeholders. I know this is welcomed by the Hoteliers Association, in our meeting, and I think we can vote on three, regardless of the option we take. So I'm happy to propose item 3 is written. Seconder.
No, can I just speak on it?
Yeah.
The officers. Could we have the date for the extraordinary meeting put in item 3? Is there any chance of that?
No, because as soon as we get the information, of course, the council will call back.
Yeah.
So we can get it within 7 days and then within 14 days.
Yeah, okay.
So item 3 as written, I propose, seconded by Councillor Thurman. Does anyone want to say anything on item 3? No, we move to the vote. Those 4. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Tough on that one. Thank you very much, members, for your input. We move forward to item 8, which is the draft master plan and action plan for Wayne Seafront. Some members may wish to believe that we're here just for the fairground, but if not, you're more than welcome to stay for the rest. I know a lot of you will be interested in this one also. Going to ask Tony Hurley, our operations manager, to introduce our main please. You're up for it.
He'll be back shortly.
Okay, just take a second.
Yeah, everyone's handed. Yeah, Tony left me there. I enjoy it. So we just introduced item 8, Tony, over to you, please.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Following approval of a brief for the creation of a master plan for Weymouth Seafront, the consultant Hemingway Design were appointed to undertake the necessary research and consultation and draft the master plan. The public consultation undertaken by Hemingway Design was very successful and received over 2,200 responses. In addition, the workshop for local businesses was well attended. The resulting consultation and draft master plan report is presented along with a draft action plan for control officers to indicate how the town council can take forward the recommendations for Hemingway Design by a variety of means, including the forthcoming service plan for resort services and the asset maintenance plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Now, I'm aware again there are a few members of the public who wish to speak on this item, and I do have a couple of pre-notified statements to this. First statement is from this one, Mr. Alistair Marsden. We have a question on this one. Is he here, or has this one been read out?
The question and the statement, I think that's going together because there's.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Tony to read both the statement and the question.
We have two statements which are very similar, two questions. You would cover both of those.
Yes, please.
Yeah, from Mr. and Mrs. Kropacek. The statement is, we do not need a pop-up cafe to effectively destroy two businesses. This is at Greenhill. Upgrading Jurassic Rocks Cafe with building is a far better option. And upgrading the tennis courts as suggested, we do not need a community garden or pop-up market for reasons that we stated in our original email. The second question is from Mr. Alistair Marsden. Why is it necessary to invest significant amounts on things like a new pop-up cafe or new sports facilities, this again is at Greenhill, when there are several cafes and existing sports facilities? Would it not be better and more environmentally sustainable to invest in the upgrading of existing facilities? For example, the tennis courts are in poor condition. Could this be upgraded and made into a multi-use sports facility? Could the Jurassic Rocks Cafe be upgraded? And the proposed response is, the report sets out a range of recommendations, some short-term, whilst others are more aspirational and can only really be dealt with undertaken by a partner organisation, such as Dorset Council or the Greenhill Community Interest Company, which leases the Greenhill Shelters building, cafe and tennis courts. In relation to the Hemingway recommendations for the Greenhill Shelters and tennis court site, there are suggestions that we would need to discuss with the Greenhill CIC to see if they consider that they have merit. Attached to the report to the Services Committee this Wednesday is a draft action plan produced to show how the Town Council could respond to the recommendations of Hemingway Design. And in this, we've tried to be clear that the way forward will be one that involves partnership working and discussions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Tony. Was there any other members of the public that wish to speak to the master plan or this item on the agenda? No. I'm going to open it up to members, but before we do, members, during the chairman's pre-meeting on this item, I was very clear to officers that I felt this paper was here too early. I don't think as a council we have had the opportunity to discuss the Hemingway proposal in any depth, shape or form. And that we're seeing an action plan off the back of this here proposed this evening, when we may not necessarily agree on the points that are in there. As well as us, I don't think our public have had a chance to comment on the Hemingway proposal. And okay, there was a large response in the consultation period, but what's been drafted and proposed by Hemingway, that I know some members wish to distance themselves for, and for different reasons, but it has not been agreed by the members of this council or Weymouth as a whole. So I would actually like, quite early here tonight, unless there's anyone that desperately wants to speak to this, to remove this item from the agenda and instruct officers to go out and carry out a full public consultation on the plan as it is now. From that, then we can make the amendments to make a plan that Weymouth residents wants and Weymouth Town Council can deliver. So unless there is any desire to discuss the agenda item here this evening, I will be making that proposal and requesting a seconder. Councillor Roos. Before, I will give members just an option though, if there was anything urgent here that wanted to be brought up. Councillor James.
Just to say that, you know, if I agree with what you're proposing, so I just think to bring it here like this and then this, you know, to make a decision just here. We should be doing what we did about, what was it, 10 years ago when we had that meeting in the pavilion and we invited all the relevant partners to come along to it, sit round tables and give us their views and their thoughts. And that was a really good meeting. Where all that information has gone, I think Kevin may have been there. I'm not sure if you remember that one. I know Kate and Wella was and things like that. Where that information went to, I don't know, but there was so much good information, so many good ideas. It came from schools, it came from members of the general public, it came from the business, it came from Chamber of Commerce, it came from everybody that we claim are our partners. And that is a good way to consult with the public. Arrange somewhere like the pavilion, invite people in, sit down and do it properly.
I'm very sure that our marketing and communication guys are taking that on note there. Councillor Around.
Thank you, Chair. I will back your proposal, but I think that's the way from what I understand, that's the way the Hemingway system works anyway. From listening to somebody's talks, you go up to the public, gets ideas, puts in a report, then you go back and say, is this what you wanted? So then it's not just one or two individuals who get to comment on the plan. The whole community gets to comment on it. So that's what we're actually not disagreeing with the way Hemingway works, I don't think. And what I've seen in other towns is not just councillors that come up with good ideas. There might be lots of young people that will come up with fantastic ideas that we wouldn't think of. And that's what we've gained from these, I don't know, consultations. So I don't disagree, but we just need to open it up.
I think if I can, Councillor Around, apologies, Councillor Gray, you're next. But I can just interject that. From the end of the process, I saw Hemingway, he was not very much listening to any suggestions from the public. It's, I've done this, I have been to Weymouth, I know what Weymouth wants.
I'm walking out and he was there.
Councillor Gray.
Not wishing to air dirty linen in public, but I am. Because in my 3.5 years, this has been the most disappointing report from officers that I have seen. Given that we signed off a considerable amount of taxpayers' money to get this report, the guy completely ignored the instruction. What we've ended up with is a botched version. We haven't even spoken to Dorset Council at length about these things. We wanted things that we could do to improve our beach area, promenade. What we didn't want is to rely on others to do it. And pretty much most of the other recommendations. And I understand that we need to do that, but that wasn't the aim of the report. And I feel we wasted our money.
Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't think this is an officer's report. This is done by an outside company, which the officers were asked to do. So I feel you're being a bit unfair on the officers saying it's their report when it's not. I've got a feeling he didn't stay within any of the briefings given. It was only meant to be along the promenade. Greenhill had nothing to do with it, the actual brief. But I think we do need to discuss it because I don't even think he spoke with the flood defence or anything that Dorset Council on any works they've got going on. So I don't blame the officers, I blame the company we use.
Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with much of what's been said, actually. I was a little bit surprised because I really haven't had that much of an opportunity to sort of go with it, but I'm grateful to the council for providing us with yet another plan of some sort. I think my collection currently stands at 3 on the shelf. This will be the 4th. Town centre, Seafront, Pavilion, and 2 master plans that I've collected over the last 20 odd years. Lots of the other master plans that we've had and looked at and considered and passed and all the rest of it, all involved considerable amounts of money from within. This one doesn't mention anything about how much it would cost, any ideas and all the rest of it. And I think until we get some ideas to how much it's going to cost us, what's within our ability, as Councillor Gray says, what's within our ability to do or within our control to do within the budgets that we've got. I think that's what we need to sort of focus on, rather than, just this is what I think you would like to see. And if, as has been said, the firm has not stuck to the brief, has not stuck to the contract, has sort of weighed off and all the rest of it. I don't know, have we paid the invoice yet? I'm certainly used to look down.
Okay, members. Nobody else left. Councillor Waken.
Thank you. I agree with some of the comments that have just been made. The problem we have is we gave Hemingway Design a map with a red box around it that said, this is what we control, this is what we want ideas on this. What we need to do is take the report we've got and put a red box around the stuff that actually we as a council can deliver. And then maybe a blue box around stuff that partners can deliver. Because at the moment, the document doesn't, it's a very nicely produced document, but the problem is 50% of it is things that are not our remit. And I think that's the task that needs to be done first. And I don't know whether we set up a working group to do that, or whether we ask officers to do it, and I'm not volunteering for a working group. And then, yes, then we need to do that second level of consultation, but only on the, immediately is on the things that this town council has influence over. Because otherwise, yes, people are going to get excited and think these are wonderful things we can deliver, but we cannot deliver. So I think it's really important we demarcate, we separate out the ideas and say, this is the stuff that we can actually do.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waken. Councillor James.
Can we actually find out what Councillor Brooks is what he said is a bit of a laugh or true? Have we paid the invoice? Is there any comeback on what we paid out? And throw the thing in the bin and do what I've suggested and what Councillor Brooks was saying, that the amount of master plans, seafront plans, all the rest of it, we've both sat through and seen go on the shelf and disappear. That event that was held at the Pavilion, I don't know if Bill must have been there then, and it was in the ocean room. It was full, all the tables were full. Good ideas came out of people's heads that got experience. There was engineers, there was lots of people with different experience, different trades. Surely that's what the community wants. Make to the public.
Councillor James, I think you made that
But
point.
we need the officers to go away and actually arrange that.
I think you made that point earlier on your previous statement.
Let's get it
So
arranged.
I'm going to ask the assistant town clerk just to respond to the question.
With regards to the comments regarding the contract that we have with external companies, including Hemingway Design, because it's commercially sensitive information, we can't discuss it in a public meeting.
Thank you very much. So we've got a proposal. I take on board comments about the process, that they should have been made 12 months ago when we embarked on this decision and not where we are now. But we are where we are and it's moving forward. This is an aspirational council and I've got every confidence that it will deliver on what we finally come out with as a proposal. And it's got a track record of delivering ever plans already in its short life. So with the proposal proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Burnham, is everyone clear on what the proposal is, or do you need me to rewrite? Right, read it. Members, are you happy? So the proposal is to instruct officers to go out and carry out a full consultation on the existing plan, so that we can create a priority listing on asset deliverables by Weymouth Town Council. Okay, moving forward to the vote. Those in favour, show of hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 9, which is Station Gateway Pocket Park. Again, I understand if anyone wants to leave, you're more than welcome to. You can do so. We're going to ask Tony Hill to introduce.
Thank you, Chairman. This report sets out a request from Dorset Council for a financial contribution towards the further enhancement of the new pocket park created along the old railway line between King Street and Jubilee Close. Dorset Council are proposing to install block paving, as you'll see in the appendix, to imitate a railway track and provide visual interest. The cost of the works is estimated to be 22,900, and there is a potential for Dorset Council to fund the work 50% if match funding can be provided by partners. The Town Council is therefore being invited to contribute to the match funding target for this project. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Tony. First speaker on this is Councillor Burnham.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for that. All I've got written in my notes on this, there are 2 words. It's no way. Councillor James, before you pick another 2. Members, I've got a real issue with this about, you know, this should have been done, this should have all been, you know, coming back to us for more money. Dorset Council just does not feel right, and there's no way I can vote for this. I don't know if anybody's got a different view. I appreciate the aesthetic ambition they've got on this, but we can't afford it, and why should we, frankly?
Thank you very much, Councillor Burnham. Councillor James.
Well, I actually agree with Councillor Burnham, because I would have said exactly the same, could not be giving them any more money, because looking at the diagram, I'm just going to put my glasses back on and just say that a design feature which showed a railway line in the surfaces, but this was removed for the cost and the feature. To be honest, who sits around a table and comes up with these really lame ideas at Dorset Council? I'm sorry, but I've sat through so many meetings where you see somebody come along, look at this design, we're going to do this, and you look at it and think, that is an absolute load of crap. So there's no way I want us to give me more money. And again, I'm sorry, going back to that flipping meeting, we had school kids there that came up with some absolutely brilliant designs. The back part of the railway line that was left for a railway museum, for carriages, for cafes, all sorts, on a shelf somewhere collecting dust. How can you call it a park? I agree with what Councillor Toff said the other day on Facebook. Where's the greenery? It's not a park, it's just a board that's being graffitied on with some information about the railway line and all made to look very pleasant. But the drinkers still sit there and drink, there's rubbish there. It's just an absolute load of whoever got paid to design and come up with that idea needs their backside kicking down the room. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'Reilly and Roos.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be voting against spending money on this because it isn't a park. I was involved in some of the early stages of the planning. This was very clear that this was meant to be somewhere for the public to enjoy nature, and it should have incorporated raised beds for the community to grow in beds. There's very little allotment space in that bit of Weymouth. So it should have had raised beds, it should have had plenty of trees, it should have been a really pleasant green food, following the incredible edible model of top Lawton. And to see what it's been reduced to is really disappointing. There was steel rails in there, which are now somewhere in some depot in near Dorchester. Those steel rails are valuable. And for us to then replace them with brick is shameful, really. They should kind of see where they're back. They had, this project was given £500,000 of funding, we should have delivered it. They failed, they get £500,000 more from the Bossett Council, and now they're coming back from the 22,000. It's just, I want to spend this money on stuff from the council. From the later items in the agenda, so I'll be voting against the money because it doesn't deliver a public mark.
Councillor Roos.
I think I might say this a lot over the next year. If we have a chance to splash the cash, I'd rather spend it on kids struggling to eat or any other cause that will be coming up over the year. We have a cost of living crisis, and spending money on whimsical things feels to me unethical. So I can't support anything like that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roos. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everybody. I'm not going to prolong the meeting. I've had residents contact me on this. No.
Thank you very much. Looking like, got a recommendation, Councillor Furman, would you like to propose something?
Yeah, I'd like to propose we do not do it.
Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor James. All those in favour? It's unanimous. We move forward with item 10, which is the nursery relocation business case. And it's over to our assistant town clerk, Charmaine.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, Ben said is not able to attend this evening at that last minute, so I am going to try my best with this one. For those of you that attended F&D last week, week 4, this report was discussed at F&D. It is the relocation of the current nursery to Fairground. Hopefully you will read the report and then read a good appendix that goes with it. Recommendations are there in front of you. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to help and answer. If not, I'm sure Councillor Owl and Councillor Gray will be able to assist with that.
Thank you very much, Charmaine. And just for those out there on YouTube maybe watching this, F&G is our Finance and Governance Committee. And so just, yeah, local government likes abbreviations, but that's what that one is. Anyone wishing to speak to this item? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've read through this quite a few times and I've contacted Councillor Gregg, asked his opinion about financially, which is the best way to go. I've contacted Tara and she sent me a lovely email. I was hoping she might be here tonight, but she isn't. And item B is the option that both the chair of the F&G and our fantastic Parks and Open Space manager wants us to go with.
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose that we go as soon as possible to item B, that the short-term extension to the Lynch Lane, and that gives the Parks and Gardens time to get their planting, get their things in order, and to maintain the contract that they have with Weymouth. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. Anyone else? Councillor Gray, since it's been to your committee, anything to add?
Well, you know, the first thing to say is the report is very well written. It's probably one of the best reports that we've had in terms of factually gives members a lot of options. I think the reason I'm, along with Councillor Dickinson, voting for B is we're not ready. You know, I think it's a good thing to do. I think it will secure Tumbledown's future. It makes perfect sense to run your own operations from your own land, thus avoiding over £250,000 worth of rent in 10 years with repairs. So I came to the conclusion, having spoken to Ben, that if we can get an extension to the current 2024 lease, either an extension for 2 years or sign a new one with a break clause halfway through, that will give time to get our ducks in a row. It also straddles this council. I'm not keen on signing up this current iteration of the council to something that the next council will have to pay for. So I'd rather delay it for 2 years and let the next council have a go at it, having the ball in. It gives time to tumble down to get some work done in preparation. I know we've got planning now, which is a big hurdle, but it does give them time to get ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Grove. I'd like to just ask you a question. So am I right in thinking that the Finance and Governance Committee were happy with the financial situation around the proposal?
Yes.
So really, so this committee to decide more of the service provision, that if you were looking to move sooner or after, and the impacts on possible service. So Finance and Governance are happy with the financial arrangements. It's just really for this committee to review the impacts on potential service should they relocate any sooner. Do we have any other speakers? Councillor
I reluctantly vote for B, but I'm very disappointed that we can't go with A, because that's why I wanted this council to deliver. It's been slow and I'm light, but getting quite difficult. The previous borough council, when we had our own planning department, gave us verbal advice that if as long as we stuck to the existing footprint, we'd get the most development. But then when it went to Dorset Council, we had to go for full plan revision, which cost us a fortune in getting 7 external reports. There's no benefit from getting them, but we have, although it's taken us 2 years, we have achieved the planning permission, and for the nursery as well. So the groundwork is laid. We have permission for this to move. And it makes so much sense in the long run to move our operations from somewhere we're paying rent to our own land, because there'll be massive synergy between this and the nurseries and the care farm. So yeah, on that really.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ralph. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Councillor Laurel. It's a shame really, because this was one of the first things that myself and Councillor Northern spoke to Sarah and her team about when the council was first formulated in 2019. So here we are nearly 3 years later, still discussing that. And my only concern is that we don't get ourselves into a very similar position to what the old borough council was. But when the financial surroundings on that council just meant that it was such that it was kicked into the long grass, and then something came along and kicked it further, and it effectively stayed there for the last sort of 7 or 8 years that I was involved with the last council. So I hope that doesn't happen. Also, I suspect the report that went to F&G was very similar looking to this one. Whereas you've said, Mr. Chairman, that we should sort of concentrate on the service side of things, not necessarily so much on the financial side of things. We sat here with a very good report, with lots of detail, but I just feel as though we're sort of, if we're making any decision, we're almost just rubber stamping a decision that's already been taken. It's so focused on money and finance and that sort of thing that the decisions effectively been taken out of our hands. That's a report could have been slightly amended or rewritten to focus on the issues that we're concerned with this committee, the service element. And, you know, refer to the financial side of things as a sort of a supplementary. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Did you have any points on concern on the actual service delivery from the nursery that maybe officers could answer?
Not really, no. No, I agree. It's better to operate from planning with you. I mean, I look forward to the day when we can actually increase the number of services that we can offer to a wider. And I think that is one of the constraints where we are at the moment. It doesn't offer that extension or the ability to sort of expand what we can actually do.
Thank you very much. Next, I've got Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reassure John, because Tom Dan, I've been involved for a long time, I'm not currently, but I'm involved for a long time. Just to reassure you, it's in our strategy. So we put it at the centre of our strategy. So it's for all people to see. The planning permission that's been granted is for the 7 buildings, and they can go ahead. If that, that's not going to affect the nursery relocation. So there's plenty going on at Tumbledown. It's a major achievement. All the people that were involved in that planning application. We've got planning permission for 7 to replace all the buildings, if we can afford it. I would say that. So all the buildings can be rebuilt if we want them to be. The separate issue is, and the difference between A and B from a finance point of view was one of risk, because it's a big commitment. If we can mitigate that risk by giving ourselves some time and straddling a new council, I think that's the wise thing to do. But I think Tumbledown's at the heart of what we're trying to do, and our own operations from our own land makes absolute sense in the long run. So it will happen, sadly, not by 2024, but could be 2026 by the time it's in and ready.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say what I gathered from when I read the report, that we underutilise the current building at Lynch Lane.
Yes.
And could officers perhaps be seeking other means of using that space, subletting it to somebody else? And for example, they're just 2 doors away from Lynch Lane Nursery. Perhaps they could use the space. It just seems to have all that expanse not being used is rather retain. Even if we were offering it out to community to come and grow stuff themselves in a greenhouse, it just seems a terrible waste to me. But if we could get some return, it would be good.
Obviously, we're not looking to be there for long, but maybe it's worth talking to the Parks Department to see what can be done, and maybe bring a proposal forward to the next committee. Councillor Wakeling, you were waving at me at the back there.
Thank you, Chair. You cut your coat according to your cloth. If we plan to take 4 years to do this, it will take 4 years. If we plan to take 15 months to do it, it can take 15 months. If we plan to have a 1,600 square metre nursery, then we'll keep paying for it. So I don't often disagree with Councillor Gray, but in my opinion, we should just get on with it. The long-term financial savings are really, really clear, and it can be made to work. So that's my opinion. If we plan to take, we can plan to take 20 years to do it, and I'm sure we can manage that, but we could just get on with it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeling.
I'll resist. We're paying Lynch Lane, whatever, whether we get out or not.
The Gray is going to resist.
Rubbish.
Okay, I kind of feel that we're finishing up with this one. Do I have a proposal by anyone here? Councillor Dickinson did say recommendation B very early on, seconded by Councillor Gray, wasn't it? All those in favour of recommendation B? That looks unanimous. Thank you very much, members, and do pass our thanks on to Ben for an excellent report. Moving on to item 11, and this is our proposals for our community engagement events. Again, we trialled these last year, and members were given the opportunity to feedback. And following members' feedback, we do have a set of proposals for 2023, and I'm going to ask Tony to introduce.
Thank you, Chairman. At the request of the committee, officers have devised a programme of community events at key council sites from May to September in order to provide an opportunity to better engage with residents. In addition, the council will have a presence at a community event at the March Skate Park, which will in fact take place in April, not March, as stated in this report. The most significant event will be the second Community Expo, which will be on the Promenade on the 20th of May, if agreed by members. with the aim of inviting a whole range of local community organisations to take part in a high profile location. Members are requested therefore to approve this programme of activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Opening it up, anyone comment on the points? Councillor Berman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the report, Tony. The only thing that I think is missing here, we've got members and parts of our community represented well across this report. The only ones we don't have are Westham. I know that they're mentioning the skate park, but that's not being delivered by us. And there's no mention of Littlemore. And I will just make members aware, as sure you all do know, that they are our two areas of deprivation that exist within our town. And I think it's important that we invest some time and effort into those. I mean, I understand Malcolm Regis as well. Sorry, yes. Not competition, but no, I just think, you know, we do need to look at those particular pockets and areas. We've got well-established friends groups in some of those that are mentioned in the report. It's about supporting those communities that perhaps don't have those friends groups that we can kind of lift up or help pull up. And I just thought I'd note that for the reflection on the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Furman. Anybody else? I think just for again, anyone watching out there on the YouTube or those recording back, it's worth noting that these are events that the council are looking to organise. With the exception of the Marsh one, which is being organised by the provider of the park, to go out into the community. If you'd like the town council to attend one of your events, you can get in touch with us at any point, and we can look to see if we can facilitate that and support those events. Going to move forward then. Do I have a proposer for the recommendation? Councillor Frost.
Chair, sorry. I was going to say, in terms of the Littlemore particularly, so just look at, are we going to look at that? I don't want to make an amendment, but are we going to look at something a little more? Because it feels natural, it should.
If I can respond, I think the idea of these events is that they would move around on a cycle. Littlemore did have an event last year. You know, this year we're moving out into Hillbourne Park, open spaces, which someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Wyke, which Wyke wasn't on there last year. So the idea is to rotate at different venues, go into the different communities. So proposal with Councillor Frost, do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell. All those in favour of the recommendation, with that noting that it's the April for the skate park one. Thank you very much. They were only all that easy. Item 12, which is our PIC options update. Going to ask Michelle, our new project officer, welcome. Thank you for being so patient with us. We're on the agenda this evening, to introduce the item.
So yes, I was asked to look into the different options for whether to introduce it for a information centre. I have put in appendix A, appendix 1, sorry, the different options. Unfortunately, some of the costings I couldn't obtain because it all depends on which option we choose. So the recommendation for this is for the councillors to consider, should we provide our own TRC or choose one of the options and progress them to a full project.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Looking at anyone looking to speak? Councillor James.
Well, I just recall we got rid of the DIC because of cost quite a few years ago. I'm standing information, but is doing more or less the same thing. I would be a bit low to be spending money on reintroducing one because at the time, one of the biggest things we were told when we got rid of it was everyone looks online now. Nobody needs to actually go somewhere and have a TRC, so I don't know. I thought the information shop was a good idea. Do we really need to call it a TRC or have a separate TRC? I don't know.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Just a point of clarity there, it was the previous Separate council that removed, not the town council.
It was, but it was done because of costs, and we are in like Councillor Ruth, the cost of living crisis. I don't think we've got money to spend on TRC, and we were told, and we're always being told we can do it online.
Yeah, Councillor Royal.
I'm still glad the idea of some kind of information centre. My question has been like, Councillor James, is the information centre on St Mary's Street, which is up and running. Why are we supporting that instead? Because that doesn't just do information, it does all sorts of other benefits to the community. It does seem fairly successful. And the other thing, we wouldn't have to entirely fund it ourselves. So why are we doing something separate?
Thank you very much, Councillor. The Assistant Town Clerk, Charmaine, just wants to come in with a point on that one.
The information shop only currently able to operate for 1 year, so it's only got until the end of the year. I had the report from Weymouth Area Development Trust added today. They do wish to extend, however, only the wish to extend the tenure. However, due to decision-making process and timetabling of funders, have been unable to secure the report as yet. They're looking to enter January to do so. So the information shop is very much up in the air at the moment. However, if you look behind me in the table, I think the middle option is work in partnership with another provider. That could be the information shop, or it could be somebody else.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roos.
Thank you, Chair. Who here has actually the information about great stuff? I had the pleasure of opening, I actually work quite closely with them in my day job in mental health services. But I would say that they actually host everything people could possibly want, and they have space for more information to be put up on their walls. So if we wanted local information, although I think they already have local information, we could add local information there. They have the space also, they have extra rooms and space for consultations. So it might be worth us actually considering inputting some, maybe a smaller amount of finances back into the information shop and collaborating that way, using what we already have in our community instead of trying to create more of what we already have in our community.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roos. Councillor Gray.
I'm going to agree with everybody. I think working with somebody else, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's work with somebody else. If it's space, wherever the shop ends up being, because those shops tend to move around anyway because of the sort of lease options. So I think we should get closer to them, find out whether they'd like us to be there, find out if what sort of advertising or leafleting or whatever. But the ghost of Mr. Wakeling behind me, I'm going to say, before he says it, I'm going to support also a potential development of a Weymouth that, because I think that would be really good, in my view. Outside company can develop it, whatever. We don't need to do the work. Let's get some costs. I'm sure Luke will school me, but there must be somebody that could develop an app for us that could send us somewhere. So that option plus the electronic one. Thanks.
Yeah.
Councillor Bale.
Reading through the business case, I noted that one of the references was from Visit Britain in 2009, stating that tourist information centres create sort of an uplift and an extended duration of stay. For me, everything's changed since 2009. I agree with the point about the app. People, I think, will really welcome it. Online sort of entry into tourism in Weymouth. You've got to remember as well, there are lots of outside websites that do a very fine job of promoting our town, TripAdvisor, things like that. But an app would be sort of what I would lean towards, modernising it. Sounds like supporting what's already there as well. It would be amazing. I don't think we need to be putting in something brand new for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Bell. I think Michelle's got a response to some points made there.
I did look into a app for us, and I spoke to a developer who has worked with us before. The difficulty is what else are we going to provide that's not on Visit Dorset, We Are Weymouth, and all those sites. So it can cost up to about 30,000 just to develop a website for us. So it's looking at the cost against what extra we can provide that's already out there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. Have we looked at the possibility of joining forces with the bus company with their kiosk that they put up? I was wondering whether, is it QR codes could be put up on the kiosk, but the bus company put a thing. And when I've gone down there, lots of people, oh, there's the bus, and they go and they hand out bus timetables and stuff like that. So we could look at working with those for all the other options. There's so many options, and I'm glad to see we've got a project officer that we can steer that way. So welcome on board, Michelle.
Thank you.
Looking at Councillor Wakeling.
Yeah, you're going to say it.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Go on.
So, sorry, I got followed in the hallway by Wilson and Danta. Yes, I previously championed a mobile TIC. I like the idea that we could have something that could be present in Weymouth, but also we could take it up to the Dorset County Show or the Dorset Steam Show, or we could take it to Birmingham or London and actually go Weymouth. And if there's an app, you go here, download the app and plan a holiday. So to me, as promoting brand Weymouth to the rest of England, there's a lot of value in having something we can actually pick up and take on a tour in the winter time. And actually market our town. Is that the town council's job? Yes and no. With regard to an app, it's a very crowded workspace at the moment, as Michelle said. There's so many companies trying, and they're mixed quality. There is one or two very good offers, and there are quite a few quite terrible offers in the app and web information stores. And yeah, what would we add to that crowded marketplace is an interesting question. I like the idea of us trying to just maybe do something that they could, what's the word, syndicate. So for example, if we, as the council, I know our events team do an event calendar, and if we made that syndicatable so that they, all the companies, all the copying it, they could actually just basically embed our quality events calendar, which is up to date, into their sites. I'd like to see that. Yeah, my only comment, I walked in, I believe, Charmaine was saying something about the risk with working with a partner is if they pull out or their priorities change. So whilst yes, it's attractive to work with a partner, and yes, it reduces our liability. The problem is if we go with a partner and they decide that they're going to move premises or something, then that might shift the relationship. You guys.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeling. Councillor Furman.
Right, just not so we don't muddy the water sort of thing. I think members don't. We shouldn't get hypnotised by an app. There are other options, and I know myself and Councillor Wakeling have talked extensively with officers about what our online offering is. And it's not just an app. There are other ways about it. So I think we should just focus on rather online content that we can deliver rather than a standalone app, because they tend to be very, very expensive. And there are other ways that we can deliver that before we kind of step in.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. As a former employee of We Are Weymouth, I can tell you that We Are Weymouth promotes Weymouth all over the place. They seek out opportunities to promote the town, and I don't think trying to do the job they're doing is there's any point in it, because we won't do it as well, and they have more money than we do. And also on the rather old-fashioned notion of a TIC, the number of phone calls that We Are Weymouth gets every year from people saying, can you tell me where the TIC is? Because I want to pick up some leaflets. And you say, we haven't got one. people say, well, why? And you can't give them a good reason. And there are still a lot of people who like to go to a new place, and I'm one of them, and I'm quite techie, I'm quite capable of finding my way around with an app. But I like a piece of paper with a map and some pretty pictures that tells me what's on offer in the place I visited. And I think we need to have that facility somewhere. And I think in the information shop is the right place, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor James, before you come in, I'm just going to sort of remind you that obviously this request has actually been hovering around in the background for some time. Those who remember TEEF, Tourism, Arts, Events and Festival Working Group. We're discussing this back in the days with Matt Ryan. There's a Portland, but that's another matter. But you know, we were looking at recommendations, and the recommendation were put for TEEF, and we tried getting this moving, but COVID and the likes of resourcing. But we're here now where we are today. And I think back in those days, the favourable option was a mobile unit. And maybe the mobile unit is what the information shop needs as partnering support from the town councils. They haven't got to keep relying on rental agreements with private landlords. Maybe we did have a branded unit that we could populate on our seafront and close to our buildings that already provide Wi-Fi and networking and everything else that we need. So I think, you know, that would be my sort of option. I'm not going to use the word porta cabin because I know Councillor Wakeling doesn't like it, but if we had a branded portable unit that we could also take to other locations and big shows and festivals, that maybe the information shop could operate out of and provide the service for us. That's an option I think I'd like to see more information provided for. I think tech-wise and app-wise, we'd be entering a crowded market with people that are already doing it for us and better. Loving Wayne from Portland website, fantastic working with We Are Wing to deliver that. Andy there, and he does the Facebook page, great. He's put Weymouth on the map on the digital market, and that service is already provided. So I would actually like to find out what the cost of a portable unit is, so that we can run seasonal information and maybe relocate that for different sites from the seafront, and maybe partner with another organisation. But I think we need more information and a costed proposal for us. And then obviously we can pass our wish on to finance and governance to see if we've got any money for this sort of delivery. Councillor James.
I just wanted to make an observation on the assets thingy, where it's got risk management, waste money on setting up something that will be provided. That's a good point, but that should be read, surely.
So you want about the impact assessment,
Yeah.
Councillor James?
Sorry, that could be a red sort of block there, sort of waste money on setting up something that's already been provided.
I think though, at the moment, we don't know that is waste, because we don't know what the costing is. We've got some different recommendations, and really, you know, this committee had the opportunity to discuss it. And it's whether or not we want our project officers to bring us back any further information on costing proposals, or do we think that it's being provided adequately elsewhere? But I think the provision that everyone's happy with, which is the information shop, we've heard this evening, may be coming into some difficulty with their existing location, may have to relocate if they can find an affordable venue, should partner organisations find the funding. So I for one would see what the cost of a branded porta cabin that we could host the information. Modular building. Thank you, Councillor Wakeling. A branded modular building that we can maybe host the information shop out of ourselves, deliver the service on our behalf. I'd be interested in a costly proposal for that.
I'd be interested in going to Glastonbury if you want to volunteer.
What's the line up there, Councillor Dickens? I did just have a Councillor Berman say that he would second that proposal. Is there any other proposals that we want to come forward? Would we like Michelle to speak to the information shop to see what else they've got and how we could offer their current provision as it is in a different way, bring that recommendation back? Just so we've got a couple of things to discuss with the committee. And what I don't want is to get in another situation like we were with the fairground when we defer. I'd like to have a couple of options, to have a good debate, and move forward with something. Councillor Gray.
Rather than say information shop, can we include We Are Weymouth as well? Because if one or the other, I think working in partnership with somebody, whether it be online or physically, is a good thing because it's cheaper. And why reinvent the wheel? So I think I'm sort of pro the information shop, but given their tenure, it might be that we do some work with We Are Weymouth.
We Are Weymouth could be in the same position in that 10 years they go to rebalance.
Well, they could. I did think about when Helen said that. I'd say, another 2 years or whatever it is that they've got left, but it'd be worth exploring that. Months, is it? 2 months? Yeah. Blindness.
Personally, I've not seen much of their campaign to reballot. Okay, so we've got one suggestion. We're asking Michelle to go away and investigate for us, which is the cost of the modular units that we can potentially operate from.
Sorry, let's be clear. Are you talking about something like a van, or are you thinking the bus thing? That because it's a bit. I don't want to be a cop, but it's out. So do you mean a branded van that says TIC that can be driven around, or do you mean a sort of pallet thing that you can move around?
Logistically and operationally wise, bearing in mind that you're going to have people working from it, I'm thinking more of a porter cabin. But they don't have to be big grey ugly units, do they, Councillor Wakeling?
If I may, I think if we can get some research done, and I had some suggestions 3 years ago, I think, that I can dig out. But I mean, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Mentioning the buses, if you go to things like the Seafood Festival, there's often a double-decker bus selling pins or something. People flock to it because it's an iconic British thing. It's obviously it was not designed to the pins unit, but things like that, actually, people see them and they want to go see what it is.
I'll do that research, Councillor Dickinson.
Just say the custom modified vehicles are expensive. The grey one.
I did all the work for that. You're talking nearly 100 grand then.
I'm not very green. Is that our project beyond you? They can find an old bus and then perhaps, start doing that.
We need to be realistic as well. So, okay, anyway, we'll move back to a recommendation so we can have a proper conversation. We're looking at, potentially modular build, something that's transportable. Let's have a vehicle option as well. And with potential, how else we could work with the information shop should a premises be more suitable. Anyone else got anything else that we need for the show on this one?
Have we considered this building downstairs? Did I read that?
One of the options.
There's it.
So you'd like more information within it?
Second one along.
I just want to know how it's going to work. If we get the doors open, how that would work.
So again, we can ask for that to come forward within the report and as an option as well. And I think what I would like, we have a few options here that we've asked Michelle to go away and look at. I'd like maybe 2 or 3 members to form a working group to work through those options when we have them, so that we have a preferred proposal before committee. Just because, I want a good report to come back that has endorsement from members at some level. I don't envision as being a long working group, maybe 1 or 2 meetings.
If it's a meeting here, I don't mind, but I can't do Zoom because I can't.
Yes. So Councillor James, Councillor Gray, Councillor Wakeling. Are we happy with those proposals and anyone else? I don't want to exclude anyone, more the merrier. Brilliant then. Okay. Can I just thank, I don't think we need to actually formally vote on that at the moment. We've given instruction to operators and bringing something back that we can vote on. But Michelle, you're very happy.
Yeah.
Can I just thank you on a very good first report for services? And can be daunting addressing this, but you did very well. Thank you. Moving forward, we move forward to item 13. Will, come and join us, resort manager. This was a pitch that was brought forward by Councillor Taylor. And as now Will has obviously at the request of this committee brought forward a paper and a recommendation on the hands of Will to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Members are asked to consider the project plan for improvements at Greenhill Beach. The project compromises the measures to improve access to the beach for those with mobility impairments. The two aspects of the project are the installation of beach matting, similar to the deployment at the main resort beach, and the purchase of a beach wheelchair, which is designed to enable beach access. The project, with its focus on improving residents and visitors' awareness and enjoyment of Greenhill Beach. If the project plan is agreed by the committee, the aim will be to have the project in place for summer of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will? Do you have a statement on this? Sorry, a question has been put forward by a member of the public. Could I ask our Deputy Town Clerk, Ian, to read the question if we can?
Thank you, Chair. The question is from Linda Stevenson, and she states that item 13 on the agenda is of interest to me, and I wanted to ask if more disabled access along Weymouth will be considered in the future, with access down to the sea for all disabled people, and pavilion end to allow families who have dogs to access the beach during restricted times. At the moment, families have to leave their relatives or friends at the beach wall, although we understand one of the beach wheelchairs can be taken to this area, and they are difficult for those with disabilities to manoeuvre over the sand to supplement. We have got a response to that, Chair, if you just would like me to leave that out. In the 2022 season, the resort team trialled extending the beach matting closer to the high tide mark on the beach near the new beach office. This was a great success for the visitors and residents. The resort team have ideas on how to increase the access matting in the area where dogs are allowed, which they would like to trial in the coming year. The resort team will be reviewing all areas in the coming months.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing them come forward then, Will, so we can explore that option. On to the paper then, members. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Can I move the recommendation, please, and go straight to the vote?
That's what I'm going to say.
As well. Councillor Warren.
Yeah, can I second that one? It's my ward, very in favour of it, improve the access, so yes.
Yeah, I actually have one question, because it was actually, we suggested this about services, and I don't see it included in the paper. But we did challenge the officers to find external funding for this. And we did talk about local service clubs that have supported this sort of activity previously. Lions purchased a wheelchair on the seafront. The golf club, who now do the cycle without age, purchased one on the seafront, which is still there, branded up with their information and on all the posters. And I'm just wondering if any of the other service club or existing supporters were approached to support this with the beach wheelchair work.
No, they were not approved.
Councillor James.
Can I ask then, if that is gonna be something you want to carry on and try and do, can we also approach the Masonic lodges as well, because they will do.
Good share. That's what I'm referring to, service clubs such as Rotary, Lions. They all got funding to support these sorts of.
Sponsorship.
So the only thing I'd like to sort of say within the recommendation is that although we approve this from reserves, we look to still bring in the money for the wheelchair through external sponsorship.
Yeah. Agreed.
Get the round table.
Are you happy with that? And then.
Yeah. I have to do that.
Yeah, just members, and we've got a proposal that's amended. We're clear on the amendment. That's it. Councillor Berry looking puzzled.
I'm just waiting before Councillor Dixon says, I'm just waiting for them to finish typing it before we go to the votes. External funding for the wheelchair.
Yeah.
External funding for the wheelchair.
I might answer the charity one, I might answer the.
Can we specifically say from local service clubs?
I wouldn't want to narrow it, because there may be a business that wants to sponsor it.
Yeah.
So let's just say that let's try and get a sponsorship for it.
Yeah, I can think of two.
Be very popular with businesses along that end as well, you know, Top Cat Cafe, just getting more people down there. Okay.
Okay, it was in red now behind me, all clear what the amendment is. Just a clarity for you know who's proposed and seconded that one, haven't you? Yeah. Moving to the vote then, all those in favour? Unanimous. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well done, Will. This is one of the first bits. You've got the next one coming up, but one of the first bits you've had to deliver, so good result. Moving on then to the next bid. Councillor Berman put this before services at the last meeting. I'm going to instruct the Will to go away and brought forward the paper here. So Will, would you like to introduce?
Yes, thank you. Members are asked to consider the project plan for trialling a new approach to taking payments on the beach for hiring equipment. For example, deck chairs, sunbeds, and windbreaks. The project comprises the trialling of card-only payment at one of the hire points on Waverley Beach. In addition, the project includes the purchase of new stock in order to ensure that the hire service meets customer demand and maximises income on potential sell-out days in the summer. If the project plan is agreed by the committee, the aim will be to have the project in place for summer 2023 with an evaluation report presented to the committee in the autumn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Anyone wishing to speak to this one? Councillor James. Oh, sorry, I did promise Councillor Furman as a proposer first.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I put this out on my social media just to let residents know what was going on. A lot of the feedback, most of the feedback came back with hashtag cash is king. You can't go contactless, blah, blah. I want to just re-emphasize this is one of how many stacks? Will? 4. So there's 4 stacks. Those remaining stacks will all be cash. That will be an option. This is simply one stack for one summer to test what we can do with it. By no means is this a path towards complete contactlessness. Is that a word? Whatever. We want to have a balanced, mixed service and how we serve our residents. So I don't want to if we could not getting into any sort of like grandstand of, oh, don't forget people use cash. We know that this is an opportunity to modernise our service, and that's all it's about, a test out for that. So if we could, I'm just asking nicely that the points have been made, but they're addressed there. I have.
Councillor Bruce. Councillor James and Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you said about selling out and lots of, do we often get to the point where there's no deck chairs left and windbreaks? Does it ever happen?
Yes.
Is it?
So, sorry. Certainly in the 6-week holidays, but it's primarily the sun loungers that are our sort of the thing everybody wants first thing. We can sell, we have over 110 of them. And we can sell all of them within an hour.
Oh, really? Right, okay. I wasn't aware of that. So that's good. And just to answer Councillor Furman, it's not grandstanding actually to actually have a different opinion. And yes, I'm glad that you said that it's just only one out of 4, and that hopefully in the future we will be able to keep some of that cash, because having held a previous brief of equalities and diversity, I know for the fact there's an awful lot of older people my age and some younger do not have contactless and don't wish to do it. And believe it or not, I still get a lot of my pupils paying by cash. They don't want to pay by contactless or transfer. So keep cash. Yeah, can be skill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Roos.
I'm trying to be gentle about it. I was going to say, I really do support the whole part of your bid. I think it's wonderful. But I can't support cashless, and I have a long list, long or short, depending on how you see it, of why. There are people who don't have bank accounts. There are quite a few risks mentioned in the report around signal issues. And the Top Cat Cafe and even my partner's business, which are all along the seafront, will tell you that sometimes the card machines are absolute nightmare, and you lose an awful lot of money when you make it cashless. You would need then to have people pay cash. It is, and that is used in the report, and I might add, as an O2 user, it is impossible to get signal along that seafront. So I can imagine it would be a big problem. Cash is set to increase its use over the next year. The prediction is that last year, after the lockdowns, people started to use it, so 40% is just the beginning of people using cash again. So this year, prediction is that it will become much more popular. Cash is known as a way for people to manage debt and budget. It prevents overspend. With cards, people can easily lose track of what they're spending, hence why cash is quite important to a lot of vulnerable people. Also, businesses incur a fee for using card machines. They usually have a set cost plus a percentage taken off whatever is spent via that card machine. We have a large amount of people and businesses trying to encourage the use of cash now over card. And as I've got a couple of quotes here, as Martin Lewis said, there are many vulnerable people who need cash. And that was even in his debate about some businesses being contactless. And as my partner would say, it's legal tender. It has the king or queen's head on it, so it should be used.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roos. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in support of this. I've got two minor questions though. One is, if we've got 4 stacks and one of them's really contactless, why can't we just do contactless and cash? That stack? That was the sort of question I had. About the need to try it. I don't agree with Councillor Roos about the. I mean, we've had PDQ machine issues at the cafes, but that's improving. So I think the PDQ machine, if it's suspended, transactions will be fine. At 1.75, be happy. So was there a technical reason why we just didn't do both at one stack just to test the water? That's question number one. And number two, just on the PID, Will, you don't actually say where you're going to get the 15,000 from. I just want to be clear from a finance point of view. Where are you asking us to take the 15,000 from? So if every PID needs that, and we certainly, you know, is it from the project reserve?
Yes. The deck chair maintenance reserve.
Because you've got some money, you've got some money in a deck chair reserve as well. Could you not use that in some cases?
Yes.
And take the rest from the project. Quite answer very question.
Will, would you like to respond to Councillor Gray?
Yes, with regards to the first question, I definitely think we could attempt to do both cash and card.
Right.
I think it would give us a good understanding of how many people pay by card and how many people pay by cash. In the project plan, the rough numbers for the cafe, Prom Cafe, were 67 card and 64 cash.
But it would, if I was a customer wanting a deck chair from stack 4 where you only took a couple and you said, if I said I've got some cash, I wouldn't be very happy if you said walk 25 metres up there to get it. And when I got there, you know, somehow just like whatever, you know. So I think if it can be, I agree with Councillor Roos, we should just take both and let's measure it. If you could put that in your report, that would be really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Councillor Dickinson now.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to ask Will, I mean, last year myself and Councillor Tewkesbury, we put up the idea of trialling parasols. How did they go?
Nothing came through to me regarding parasols.
No, but didn't you trial some regards the ones in taxi there?
Oh, apologies. Yes, trialing. So what we did was we trialed parasols on our stacks for our items of stuff, and it went very well. We have the parasol that we believe to be at an adequate price and in sort of won't deteriorate And that would be the parasol that we would look to purchase this year.
Because this is the modern thing is, as you said earlier, like sun lounges, sun beds, parasol up. I mean, you know, deck chairs are probably still used, but I would say on sunny days, really good days, and I'll be supporting the PID. I think it's a good, we've got to move forward with the times as well.
Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing them. Another paper come forward on the cost and good ourselves and what potential return. Yeah, Deputy Town Clerk wants to make a comment.
Just Councillor Gray on the deck chair reserve, as it stands, there is a total of £115 in it.
It's already spent it. Okay, so it'll have to come from the project reserve.
Thanks, Bert.
Yeah, just a quick question, really. Is there any reason why we can't just do contactless and cash on all the stacks? Is there a reason why that can't happen? Well, I imagine that would be the answer, but I'd ask it.
Will response on that one?
So the reason why we're going to trial the one just below the beach office is we were going to look at a machine that could do both 3G, 4G and Wi-Fi. We have sort of briefly tested last year that if we move the deck chair stack, we can actually pick the Wi-Fi up from the office. So the infrastructure isn't in place for the other stacks. And as Councillor Ruth mentioned, that when there's about 30,000 people on the beach and they're all trying to stream the football, it's quite difficult to even load a page.
Not even that. Have they struggled so many days of the year?
So before you come, I'm just going to make 5 points. So just a question then around that infrastructure. Do we have any idea what the costing may be to be able to offer this to the existing bank that it's worked well? Second question is, I wouldn't want to see just contact with available. I definitely want to see cash. I can't believe that we'd really tell somebody that said I only have cash, not contactless, to say, well, sorry, we're going to have to move off this stack of deck chairs and move down the road and get a deck chair there and pay. I think it could be reputation and damaging to the council. So I think definitely we need to be able to accept both payment methods rather than just contactless. The other thing I'm interested in is in the payback. So we're talking about £15,000 worth of investment, particularly in new equipment. We're saying to replace some of the deck chairs that we bought in 2012. So we're saying they've got about a 10-year lifespan. And obviously to invest in more sunbeds. Just wondering what the payback will be on that £15,000 when we could potentially return to reserves.
Yeah, you do.
So with regards to infrastructure and Wi-Fi, it's something we've explored as part of the catering kiosks. Initially the figures were eye-watering. So it's not something we pursued the whole of the Seafront, but it's something we continue to pursue, and working with Dorset Council and looking at digital Dorset work they've been doing, it's something they're exploring as well, that we could potentially look at having. We are liaising with them about, you know, our own Wi-Fi network. By using that, we could utilise it for our own services, but we could also potentially open up it to our businesses to rent it out to them as well. So it's a bigger piece of work, which is a way off yet, but it is something we're exploring.
Yes, so with regards to the return of investment for 15,000, I don't have those figures now. However, I can produce an information report for the next services, which I can go into a little bit more detail on the potential behind.
Okay. Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Chair. I'm slightly surprised we're trialling it on one stack, and I appreciate signal decision aside. We've got evidence here that 60% of transactions are by card these days. I very rarely carry cash, and to be honest, I appreciate what Tia said about it not helping people in debt. That's because it's very easy. You go up and pay, and you get paid for something. So I'm slightly disappointed. We are behind the times on this. We should have been taking cards 5 years ago. And we're moving very slowly on it, in my opinion. So I think we need to get to the 21st century. With regards to networking, I am also on O2, and I know there is no signal on the Seafront in summer. It's dire. And we did look at a public Wi-Fi that was designed to provide up to members of the public Wi-Fi, and that was an eye-watering sum of money because of the amount of bandwidth you need for 1,000 members of the public. However, that wasn't to put up a network which would only be for a dozen card terminals is a very different proposition because you've got far few clients on it. So I think there is an option here to actually look at getting a Wi-Fi network across parts of the beach, which would enable us, and we could sublet it to the other kiosks, a reliable internet connection for the summer. And I know it's a slightly different piece of work, but if this committee would like to add it to the recommendations to look into something, a mesh network or something, because it's 2023. How have we not got internet connectivity for taking car transactions? That's what I think. We should have been doing this years ago.
Yeah, okay. Can I, if I may speak, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I can't see what we're arguing about.
Councillor Young, sorry, you may speak.
Sorry, Chairman.
You didn't even take a breath.
I can't see what we're arguing about, really. I mean, I'm probably a 60-40 person, 60% card, 40% cash. So unless there is a real cost incurred by taking cash, why can we not, if we can solve the technical problem, be taking cardless payments and cash at all of the time?
Yeah. Mr. Firm just wants to come back and another look to someone.
Yeah, thank you very much, members. I mean, I don't think I could ever say this about council in the last sort of like 4 years. We're getting ahead of the plan for the first time, rather than dragging our heels, which often happens in local government. So amazing, because that's what we want. We want mixed availability on all of them. We want mixed transactions on all of them. I will just say, in the last couple of days, in communication, we want to come back to Councillor Waking's point. I think infrastructure-wise, that's a much bigger bit of work. For this one, we are engaged with different companies that can provide different levels of service. For example, and without getting into the weeds of it, we're talking to card companies that provide service for like Glastonbury Festival. We're talking a big number of people on networks in one location, and they will then source 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G at whatever the strongest band is available to whatever network. So there's a lot more to it than just a single connection, but we are looking with Will and outside companies to
Card or cash?
I agree. I don't know what you want me to say on that.
Okay, members.
Grandstand, nice one.
Okay, members. Please just be respectful of members' views there.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna to sum up. I'm seeing that the proposal needs to include that we maintain cash collection. Is anyone here wanting to say that we go out and buy machines for all the stacks now, or are we happy with still just retaining it on one?
We can't connect them, there's no point.
Exactly.
Okay, we're looking at one stack, but still encourage cash. We're happy with one thing that seems to be overlooked here, members. Not anyone mention it, but I presume we're happy, is the proposed new fees and charges.
Yeah, well researched.
Can I ask, why do we compare ourselves to Bournemouth? They're much bigger. We're a little old, aren't we?
You've got the better beach.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I mean,
You would look at the nearest seaside providers and, so we're happy with that side of things, so we're gonna move forward with the recommendation. Go ahead, to approve the release of the reserves. And to, just to include the cash collection still along with the car machine. Can we, just receive updates how this is going throughout the season? It'd be interesting to see that. Obviously, we want to extend the offering. And, obviously, we'll be interested in having a minute update also on the proposed feedback to this also.
Yeah.
Councillor Furman, presuming you'll be open.
Yeah, I'd like Councillor Roos to second that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Roos, seconding. All those in favour, show of hands. Unanimous, brilliant. Thank you very much, members. We are moving on to item 15, which is information items, and as always, members, don't propose to take any debate on those. If there is any questions, they should be already asked under Councillor Questions, so that the officers have time to prepare responses. Nothing. So we do move to item attendance. It's been another long meeting, full agenda, heavily supported by the public. Which is great. Getting through the door.